A little while ago, I posted a short where I turned everything in the first part of Dustbowl chrome. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Each brush, displacement, prop, and overlay is either chrome or monochromatic. After I posted that short, I went right back into Hammer and converted the rest of the map too. Call me what you will, I just like shiny things and figured turning an entire map shiny would be a fun little project. So here I am again, this time with a full video documenting the whole process, because who knows, maybe you'll find it interesting and learn something. Alright, here we are in this little map I've created for demonstrational purposes. It doesn't include everything I'll be explaining in this video, but it's a good start. On the left side are some assets ported from Dustbowl. As you can see, we have a barrel, a wooden wall, and a sign. On the right side are the same assets but in chrome. I took a slightly different approach for each of them, so let's go through each one starting with the easiest, the wooden wall. To convert this, all I had to do was swap out the wood material in Hammer with this pre-existing one called Glass Chrome 001. And thanks to this button in the face edit sheet called Mark, I was able to select every face in the map for this material and apply the Glass Chrome one. After only a short while, I had all of the materials replaced. So that covers the easy part. Let's move on to the models, starting with this barrel. Now, 90% of the models in Dustbowl use baked textures that look like this, which means I couldn't change the way they looked from within the Hammer editor. Instead, I had to mess around with the actual texture files. For this case with the wooden barrel, I used a program called GCFscape to open up the TF2 MISC directory VPK file, then located and extracted the wooden barrel VMT file to a copy of the same directory stored in my TF custom folder. In short, this allows me to manipulate the shader parameters of the model without having to compile a brand new one. Think of it like a Minecraft texture pack. I then opened up the VMT and lazily pasted in this set of parameters. Now, it might look daunting, but honestly, most of these aren't even necessary. This environment map parameter tied with this cube map is the bread and butter of this operation. What this basically does is take the nearest cube map and project its 6 textures onto the model. This simulates a reflection of the surrounding environment, when in reality, it's just a set of 6 screenshots taken in all cardinal directions from the origin of the cube map. But this alone doesn't give us that chrome effect. Instead, it just makes our models look wet. So in order to fix that, I replaced the baked texture with this black one, which is just solid black saved as a VTF in the same directory as the VMT. Now we have a clean, shiny reflection on our barrel, and using the same workflow, I was able to do this on most of the other models. I say most because some of them have these weird quirks that required workarounds. One example of this is with these walls outside of Blue's first spawn. They look like world geometry because they were made out of world geometry, but they actually form a prop called Support Cluster 001A. The reason why turning this thing chrome was so annoying is because it doesn't have a baked texture. Instead, its texture files are actual materials, which means I couldn't just make a black texture called Support Cluster 001A and call it a day. Instead, I had to replace both the VMT and VTF files of the actual materials associated with the model. But because I didn't know the name of these materials, I didn't know what files I had to change. So I extracted the model from the game files using GCFscape, opened it up in Half-Life Model Viewer, and clicked on the Model tab to see the name of the texture files. After that, I took the same steps as with the other models, but in this case for these 2 wood textures. It all worked out in the end, but boy was it tedious. The next batch of models I converted were the gameplay signs. Take this control point one for example. Its original texture looks like this, so if I replaced it with a black one, like how I did with most other models, it ended up looking like this. But I wanted the text to stay there, so what I did instead was import the texture into Photoshop and add a black and white filter. Then I threw it back into TF2, and the result is a monochromatic sign that can still be read. I actually did the same exact thing with all of the overlays too, because if I just made them all black, they'd show up as chrome rectangles, which looks no good. Now, the signs and overlays aren't the only things I use Photoshop for. Take the spawn door here. It uses 2 different texture files, one for the frame and another for the links. If I had made the texture file for the links black, the gate would have lost all of its transparency and looked like this. So I threw the texture for the links into Photoshop and made it monochromatic just like the sign. And now we have a door that's still chrome, but with visible monochromatic links. Some models are weird though and don't use 2 separate textures. You see, the benefit to having two separate ones for models like this gate and fence is that I'm able to manipulate each one separately, so I can make the frame chrome while maintaining the transparency for the links. But for models like this sprout of grass, dead shrub, and tree, only one baked texture file is used, and because these models have both 3D and 2D parts, replacing it with a black texture only works for the 3D parts and leaves the 2D ones as rectangles. And as much as I wanted to make all 3D parts of the map chrome, I had to resort to making these ones chrome colored instead. But that's alright, they're less noticeable, and I think we've got plenty enough chrome around the map to make up for them. So that just about explains how I turned everything chrome, but there was still a bit more work to be done in Hammer. The most important thing I had to do to make the reflections actually work was add a bunch of cube maps all over the place. And because I wanted the reflections to be as high quality and accurate as possible, I placed about 300 of them and set the size of the ones in the playable space to 128 by 128. Next, I desaturated the colors from the light environment entity to make the map feel brighter and cleaner, because keeping them at their default levels made the map feel too dark. Now all I had to do was compile the map, pack in the custom materials, and build the cube maps. Once all of that was complete, the map was finished and this is how it came out. You can find a link to it in the description if you're interested in checking it out. If you do, one thing you'll notice is these seams in certain parts of the map that make the reflections look all inconsistent. They coincide with the edges of brushes and displacements, so there's nothing I can do about them unless I mess around with the map's geometry, which would have been way too much for this project. You'll also notice that there aren't any recursive reflections, which means you can't see a reflection in a reflection like when you point two mirrors at each other. According to the Valve wiki, you're supposed to be able to build cube maps a second time to achieve this, but my game ran out of memory when trying to do that, so we're stuck with one set of cube maps for now. If you want to play on this map, I plan on hosting a playtest event sometime in the coming weeks, so be sure to join my Discord server and check out my socials if you're interested. Or if you want to run your own server, use code LED on Shockbyte or the other link in the description to get 25% off your first month. Thank you for watching. This is LED switching off.